What's up, guys? So, absolutely massive news coming out of Israel right now. Apparently, six more hostages, Israeli hostages, were just found dead about a kilometer away from Israeli forces. And as this news spread around Israel, the people of Israel are really, really, really upset. And there's reports now that over 100,000 people are in the streets of Tel Aviv, and they're all protesting because they're fed up with Netanyahu and Smotrich and Ben Gvir and the far-right Israeli government not accepting any kind of a ceasefire deal and perpetuating the hostage situation where more and more people are dying. So let's take a look at this real fast. This is from Financial Times. Hostage deaths build pressure on Netanyahu for Hamas deal. And then Israel's largest union calls general strike for Monday as street protesters call on Prime Minister to seek compromise. Look at how many people are there. Jesus Christ. By the way, Donnie boy, this is what 100,000 looks like. Not your little rinky-dink rallies. Good God, that's a ton of people. So, for 10 months, the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas have led protests, blanketed local and international media, and begged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to agree to a deal that would bring their loved ones home, even if it meant ending the war against Hamas. So far, they have failed. But on Sunday, as news spread that six more hostages have been found dead in a tunnel underneath Gaza, apparently recently executed by their Hamas captors less than a kilometer from Israeli troops, a new wave of public anger swept Israel. Much of it was directed at Netanyahu. By Sunday night, tens of thousands of Israelis were streaming through Tel Aviv streets demanding that Netanyahu compromise and accept a deal which could see the hostages released in exchange for a lasting ceasefire and the freeing of thousands of Palestinian prisoners. But the public outpouring of grief and anger also reflected a divided nation. Netanyahu's far-right allies, including Finance Minister Smotrich, assailed the protesters and union leaders for, quote, fulfilling Sinwar's dream. Several right-wing cities and settlements said they would not join the strike. So you've got two different factions. You've got tons and tons of people who legitimately don't want to see any more violence, and they legitimately care about the Israeli captives. They care about the Israeli hostages. They presumably want to see an end to the Palestinian murders. They want to see an end to the violence, and that's why they're in the streets, is that. And then you've got the far-right freaks and these people who are, in these cities, and it says right-wing cities and settlements, illegal settlements, that won't be joining the strike, and they agree with the far-right government. So kind of, let you know what this is actually about. The tension between the two camps has grown with the realization that time is quickly running out for the remaining hostages in Hamas custody. At least 35 of them are already presumed dead by Israeli officials. Relatives of the captives, meanwhile, are growing more desperate and angry at Netanyahu. Quote, if we do not succeed to get the Israeli government to an unqualified yes, then the evidence is out there that all of those hostages will die in Hamas captivity, said Jonathan Dekolchen, the father of 35-year-old hostage Sagui, I hope I'm saying that right, taken from kibbutz on October 7th. Quote, there is no reasonable explanation for Netanyahu's rejection of the deal other than domestic political considerations and the retention of power. And guys, that's the real thing at the end of the day, is that if this violence ends, if the war ends, Benjamin Netanyahu's out. Okay, so he's perpetuating the war. He's perpetuating the genocide in Gaza. He's seeking greater war with the region, with Iran, with Hezbollah, with Lebanon, because it's his way to retain power. Smotrich and other far-right ministers have threatened repeatedly to collapse Netanyahu's coalition if he were to accept a deal tied to a comprehensive ceasefire, demanding greater military pressure on Hamas to free the hostages. Oh my God. Like, what? what are we going to do with these people? They are batshit nuts. Like, we just went over the numbers last video or a couple days ago of how many people have died so far. And it's over 45,000 people that have been killed since October 7th. And 90% of them are civilians. And these idiots are saying, well, no, we want to see more military pressure on Hamas to free the hostages. Guys, if they haven't freed the hostages yet, and you've killed 45,000 fuck people, more military pressure is not going to do it, right? So it goes on. But so far, Israel's military has managed to rescue only 8 of the roughly 240 people taken hostage on October 7th and has killed 3 by mistake. However, 105 were released in November in a negotiated swap for Palestinian prisoners during a short-lived ceasefire when humanitarian aid surged into the besieged enclave. So it kind of seems like the way that you actually get people out is by doing a ceasefire and swapping, the captives. And so, like, the deal is you have to actually agree to a real ceasefire. And Hamas is not going to agree to a temporary ceasefire where you stop bombing for a couple days or a couple of weeks. Israel knows that them continuing to up the military pressure is not actually going to get them anywhere with Hamas because it hasn't worked. It's been, almost a year now? And they haven't done fuck all to get Israeli hostages back. Hamas has blamed Sunday's hostage deaths and many previous captive fatalities on Israeli airstrikes and in Netanyahu's intransigence. It has not shifted its core demand that any comprehensive hostage release, including of Israeli soldiers taken captive, hinges on a complete ceasefire, repeating that demand on Sunday afternoon. Okay, so the message is super, super clear. We will give you back the hostages, including Israeli military, if you agree to a ceasefire. Full stop. That's the terms, okay? And they're pretending like, no, we just need to up our military operations because we don't negotiate with terrorists or something like that. I mean, all Netanyahu is demonstrating, all the far-right Israeli government is demonstrating, is that they don't give a fuck about the Israeli hostages, okay? They don't. Because if they did, they would actually do this. And so their solution of let's just do more military pressure to see, they know what that's going to lead to. But that's not the point. The point is to wipe these people off the map, okay? This is not just about Hamas. This is about ethnically cleansing. There's nowhere left for them to go anyway. Like the people who used to live in Gaza, there's no Gaza to go back to. Just really crazy story to see over 100,000 people out in the streets. Just take a look at a couple more of these pictures here of just how many people are out there protesting. So it's not Israeli people. Whenever they do this whole thing about like if you want a ceasefire or if you say something in support of Palestinian people, that makes you anti-Semitic. No, there are plenty of Israelis who don't want the violence to continue, which is why they're in the streets, which is why they're doing a general strike. Okay? There are plenty of people that are on the right side of history here. The Israeli government is not. The Israeli public has largely supported a negotiated deal with Hamas to free the hostages, according to several polls, but regular protests in Tel Aviv have yet to coalesce into a large national movement. On Sunday, the mood appeared to be shifting as the streets swelled with protesters, and much of the media and political opposition demanded that Netanyahu compromise. So, listen, there's a lot of pressure on Netanyahu to do the right thing. He's just not going to. Like, he's way too far gone at this point. And he knows that if he does do any kind of a negotiation with Hamas, he loses power. If he loses power, he's smoked. My last thoughts on this are like, man, I really hope that the Israeli people continue to do a general strike, because I've read other stories too where like this doesn't get anywhere near enough news. But like the Israeli economy is screwed, man. Like there are a bunch of people now that like they used to be invested in the Israeli stock market and they're pulling out all of their investments. Nobody wants to deal with them anymore. And so like the country is going to collapse as a result of what's happened and what's precipitated since October 7th, unhinged and insane way that they've responded to it. All right, guys, like I said, I just wanted to do a real quick one, jump on here, show you guys that. Do me a huge favor, like and subscribe, helps me out massively. It's completely free and it means the world to me. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.